A bull in the sea, a bull out of the sea. Oh, well, we'll discuss it. Let's discuss it with Alpesh Patel from Profenium Partners. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Every day we're covering this hacking scandal, and the pressure is growing on Rupert Murdoch, obviously, and it's international pressure now, isn't it? It's not just the UK.
It is. Well, to some extent, it's a bit unfortunate that it is being covered to such a wide extent. When you look at the front page of The Independent, you've got the world's largest democracy, which has had 3 terrorist attacks, but it's a little side pocket, and it's still about Rupert Murdoch. Look, nobody's lost their lives in this hacking scandal. What Mr. Murdoch should be desperately worried about is that the American Congress will not be as shy and as afraid of calling him before a congressional inquiry as the British legislature is still afraid to call him and interrogate him. And what's going to happen in America, obviously, they've got an election next year, and when you consider that Fox News, News Corp's owned Fox News, is the media wing of the Republican Party, he's got an enemy in every single Democrat.
Interestingly, though, because there has been a lot of discussion about whether he'll get rid of his entire, British newspaper titles as a way of moving on and trying to get this behind him. And the Wall Street Journal, according to The Independent here, is saying this is obviously one of Murdoch's papers in the States, saying they are now discussing the option of selling the other British titles.
It's not going to be the British titles which are going to be his big problem. I guarantee you within the next 3 months he will be up before a congressional inquiry. And not only that, you saw the former British Prime Minister speaking in Parliament yesterday. I think it's the first time since Gordon Brown lost the election that he's spoken, and to use a media phrase, he was mad as hell and not going to take any more of it. And I wouldn't be surprised if the senior executives who are going to face criminal charges, because that was the discussion. So it's going to make very uncomfortable reading for him, but he's created a heck of a lot of enemies, and they're all coming home to stick the boot in now.
Let's move on. You mentioned this story that's also on the front page, but it's on the front page of the Gulf News today. These attacks in Mumbai. Terror has returned. This is the title. You've been there.
Well,
you spent time there.
You were there, weren't you, Alpesh, when
I was in Mumbai when the last
3 years ago.
Yeah. I wasn't. Fortunately, I wasn't in the hotels, but I was in Mumbai at that time, and I have to say the Mumbaiites, they react rather well. You can tell if Indians are really annoyed because they start killing each other after things like this, and they weren't really annoyed after those. They were very calm, thankfully. They were very calm after the last set of attacks. On this occasion, nobody's mentioned the P word yet, Pakistan, as they did and pointed evidence towards Pakistan last time. Now, that's going to happen sooner or later. Back in 1994, I was working in Congress for a congressman as an intern, and he was lobbying the State Department and the White House to have Pakistan declared a terrorist state. The Americans have known about this problem for a very long period of time, and sooner or later somebody's not just going to point the finger at Pakistan again on this issue, because they did last time.
Politically, this time, it doesn't make sense to point the finger. We've seen the reports are coming through. The Indian authorities are being very, very cautious and not apportioning blame yet.
Not yet, and one wonders why not yet, given the strength of evidence every other time.
But Alpesh, just to say, so moving away from that line of argument for a moment, in terms of how Mumbai copes with this, because obviously it was enormous, the last attack 3 years ago. It had big ramifications, but they have got back on their feet very quickly. The Indian economy is surging on. I mean, this is the financial capital. What impact will this have that they've had attacks again, people have been killed again, lots of people have been injured? Does it knock this financial centre at all?
I'll tell you how Mumbai behaves. It behaves exactly the same way as London behaves after the IRA attacks and New York after 9/11. They do get on with daily life. They do get on with business.
But the international view, though, I mean, in terms of its...
I've got a UK-India Business Council board meeting immediately after this, and we're going to be talking about investment into India. There will be no changes towards the perception of risk. In the same way, there's no changes in the perception of risk towards investing in the United States or in Britain as a result of terrorist attacks in those cities.
That provides some reassurance, I imagine, for the country and the city at the moment. Let's move on to a lighter note. A change of tack and a change of knickers, apparently, is what's driving profits at Marks and Spencer's. Now, I'm not going to ask you about your underwear, Ashbal.
Well, I'm not wearing their Brazilian thongs at the moment, I confess. In fact, what I don't understand is why don't the shareholders of M&S throw those knickers at the chief executives for this very simple reason. They're talking about the pay of the chief executive at the AGM and how there's a £15 million pay packet. Would somebody please explain to me why chief executives of Marks and Spencer's over the last decade have been receiving millions of pounds in pay when their share price is exactly at the same level it was back in 2002? For about the last 10 years, their share price has gone nowhere.
I tell you
why
what,
are they getting paid? For what?
You could compare it to the other retailers in the UK sector, which are struggling. We've heard of many retailers folding and share prices
so they're
falling
getting paid.
there.
They're getting paid millions for not going bust.
Well, to be fair, though, Alpesh, we have gone
I'll
through
run it for a
difficult
£1 a year.
recession.
Hire me, and I bet you it won't go bust either in the next 10 years. Guaranteed.
I tell you what, we've got time for one
Pay
more.
me in knickers.
Salty language at the Pentagon. What do you think of this guy, Panetta? Making a good impression? We've got 10 seconds.
Leon Panetta, very interesting thing. He did say, I'm Italian, what the frick can I tell you? Maybe that's some explanation as to why he's causing difficulties.
A salty note to end on. Thank you very much for joining us. For Sally and myself, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.